Table 6. Interacting with people with learning or intellectual disabilities. Treat each person with respect and be sensitive to his or her individual needs and behavior. Find out the person's preferred way of communicating, in bracket, how he or she likes to speak and be spoken to, how or whether or not he or she likes to be touched. Sometimes, people with learning or intellectual difficulties may behave in unusual or surprising ways. Be sensitive to how you behave and how your actions might cause someone to react. Don't panic or respond aggressively. In general, speak normally and clearly. Use simple, short words. If you have to think about what a word really means, don't use it. Use real-life examples and words for real things. People with learning or intellectual difficulties may find abstract concepts difficult. Use short sentences and express one point at a time. People with learning or intellectual difficulties may find it difficult to remember a list of different things. Give the person time to take in what you have said and time to respond. Don't rush into repeating yourself. If you aren't making yourself understood, repeat yourself once. If this doesn't work, try again using different words. Sometimes it helps to emphasize the most important words in a sentence. Use a closed question with clear options rather than an open question with many possible answers. If you are asking someone with a learning or intellectual difficulty to make a significant decision, it may be best to give him or her some time to think on his or her own or with his or her main caregiver. Table 7. Interacting with people with a visual impairment. Speak normally, clearly, and directly to the person, not to his or her assistants or companions. Remember that people with visual impairments do not necessarily get the extra information that you may take for granted, so always explain what is going on. Tell the person when you arrive and when you leave. Always introduce yourself by name. For instance, "Hello Shehu, it is Okechukwu," and explain why you are there. When you first speak to the person, a gentle touch on the arm lets him or her know that you are talking to him or her. A handshake helps orient the person to where you are. If you are in a group, explain who else is with you. Identify yourself each time you speak. Use the person's name often to make it clear when you are speaking to him or her. When describing the environment, be specific in giving directions. Do not say "over there" or "over here." Instead, say "on your left or right," or "immediately behind," or "in front of you." When a person with a visual impairment arrives at a new place, tell him or her who is there and offer to describe the environment. Make sure that you describe any obstacles or hazards and whether there are any children or animals around. Do not leave the person alone in the center of a room. Make sure he or she can touch a table, chair, or wall to orientate himself to the surroundings. Be safety conscious, but don't limit the person's freedom. Move the obstacles, not the person. A person with a visual impairment may not describe his or her environment in the same way that you would. This may reflect limited depth perception or an inability to see shapes or shadows. Discuss the images he or she describes so that you can both understand each other. When guiding a person who has a visual impairment, always ask the person if he or she would like assistance first. Always speak before you move. Never take someone's arm or hand without warning. If the person does not want help, ask him or her where he or she wants to go. Offer your arm for the person to hold just above the elbow. This will allow him or her to walk slightly behind you, following you as you turn or step up or down. Walk at a casual pace, not too slow and not too fast. Whenever you come to a turn, a step, or an obstacle, pause and tell the person what is coming. Guide the person around chairs and through doorways, explaining what you are doing. He or she will be slightly to one side of you, so give more space as you go around obstacles. Don't try to sit him or her down. Just guide one hand to the back or arm of a chair or to the edge of a table. If a person with a visual impairment has a guide dog, never pet or distract the dog when it is working. Table 8. Interacting with people who are deaf and blind. People who are deaf and blind have a combination of impaired vision and hearing loss. Some have useful vision and hearing. Others have little or no usable vision and hearing. Deaf blindness can be a result of a genetic condition, birth trauma, accident, or illness. People who are deaf-blind can function in many roles, including teachers, students, professors, counselors, homemakers, agency directors, business executives, government workers, and business owners, for example. They have many different ways of communicating. The methods they use vary, depending on the causes of their vision and hearing loss, their backgrounds, and their education. Some are listed below. Sign language. A visual code for the English alphabet used to communicate with persons who have hearing impairments or are deaf. See Figure 1. Tactile sign language. The person who is deaf-blind puts his or her hands over the signer's hands to feel the shape, movement, and location of the signs. Tracking. Some deaf-blind people with restricted but still usable vision, e.g., tunnel vision, may follow signs by holding the signer's forearm or wrist and using their eyes to follow the signs visually. Finger spelling. Spelling out words into the palm of the other person's hand. Screen Braille communicator. A small portable device that enables a person who is deaf-blind to communicate with sighted people. The device has a keyboard with a liquid crystal display on one side and a braille display on the other side. The sighted person types short text on the keyboard. The person who is deaf-blind reads the printed text by placing his or her fingers on the braille display. He or she then uses the braille display to type back text. The sighted person can read the text on the LCD display. TTY with braille display. A device that allows a person who is deaf-blind and reads braille to use the telephone. Braille note takers. Devices that allow people to communicate with others who don't know braille or their communication system. Print on palm. The person communicating with the person who is deaf-blind prints large block letters on the other person's palm. When you approach a person who is deaf-blind, let them know by a simple touch on the shoulder or arm that you are there. Reassure them of your continued presence in the same manner. Immediately identify yourself by name or a sign name. Communicate directly with the person who is deaf-blind, even when he or she has an interpreter. Make every effort to learn and use whatever method of communication the individual prefers, such as print on palm, finger spelling, sign language, or writing with a bold black pen. Some individuals may have enough hearing to carry on conversations in quiet surroundings. Inform the person who is deaf-blind of their surroundings, including people and activities in the area. When involved in group discussions, let the person who is deaf-blind know when it is their turn to speak. Always tell the person when you are leaving, even if it is only for a brief period. See that he or she is comfortably and safely situated. If they are standing, make sure they have something to place their hand on, like a wall, a chair, or a table. When guiding a person who is deafblind, never place him or her ahead of you. Instead, let the person hold your arm above the elbow. In this manner, the person can usually sense any change in pace or direction. When ascending or descending stairs, pause and then continue on. When walking through a doorway, let the person who is deafblind follow directly behind you. Treat a person who is deafblind as you would treat anyone else. Be courteous and considerate. Table 9. Understanding and interacting with people affected by Hansen's disease, in bracket, leprosy. Leprosy, also known as Hansen's disease, is often misunderstood. Some key facts about the disease are: it is a medical condition caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium leprae, in bracket, a distant relative of the TB bacterium. It is transmitted via droplets from the nose and mouth during close and frequent contact with untreated cases. It is curable with multi-drug therapy. It is difficult to catch and cannot be caught by a handshake. Over 95% of people are immune, and after only a couple of days on treatment, sufferers are no longer infectious. It still affects millions of people. The disease is still prevalent in many parts of the world, and nearly every minute, someone is diagnosed with leprosy. It is capable of causing physical disability and blindness if untreated. It does this by attacking nerves under the skin, leading to loss of feeling, paralysis, and unfelt injury of the hands, feet, and face. It is still surrounded by myths, stigma, and fear, which mean that it is more than a medical condition. Remember that leprosy is not highly infectious. Depending on many factors, including the severity of the infection and when it was treated, the disability that is caused by leprosy varies between individuals. As such, persons with disability caused by leprosy should be treated with respect and given the same consideration as any other person. Dispelling myths about leprosy. Shehu's story. Shehu Abdullahi Sharkin father was infected with leprosy when he was a young boy and suffered for many years without treatment. By the time he was given anti-leprosy treatment, the infection had already damaged the nerves to his hands and feet. But after treatment at Amanawa Hospital, Sokoto, Shehu was cured. Despite many years of rejection and ridicule by his peers, Shehu managed to finish his primary and secondary schooling. He says, "I was disadvantaged enough by the leprosy, without adding lack of education to my problems." He was, however, denied admission to higher education, including the School of Health Technology, because of his disease. The Leprosy Mission Nigeria sponsored Shehu's admission to the TB/Leprosy Supervisors course, TBLS, at the National TB/Leprosy Training Center in Saye, Zaria. Shehu graduated in the top 5 of the class overall and top of the class in the leprosy section. After completing his education, Shehu was appointed as the TBLS for Gusau local government in Zamfara state. He then worked across the state, assisting with activities to prevent disease infection and rehabilitate those affected by TB and leprosy. In December 2003, people affected by leprosy from 16 states in Nigeria elected Shehu as chairman of a new organization called IDEA Nigeria. IDEA is an international association for people affected by leprosy and stands for Integration, Dignity, and Economic Advancement. Source: The Leprosy Mission Nigeria, 2010.